What's going on, guys? I really hope this microphone is not jacked up by my AC running in my car or even my, crumbled up shirt. So we'll play it back, and if that becomes an issue, I'll make sure I'm just rocking a plain tee or something when I jump on this mic. I wanted to have a very brief discussion with y'all. I'm gonna do a later video on what will the topic be? How your clone purchases and your cheapy purchases across the board are ruining your fragrance journey. And I know you guys think that you know some of the talking points that I'm gonna get into in my bag on this conversation, but I promise you, you won't. The insight that I have on this topic, I haven't heard anybody talk about. And so trust me when I say, when you guys see the title to that video, please actually click on it and listen for more than 5 minutes, because I'm going to touch on some things, some angles nobody has considered, at least in terms of sharing it with the community. So definitely stay tuned with that. But I do want to, just as kind of a thought-provoking segment for the day, talk about that subject the tiniest bit, just to give you a piece of some of the places my mind goes thinking through this. So fragrance clones used to sit very comfortably around and south of the $30 price point. And that was huge, because when you look at the average designer costs, discounter or not, sitting between the $100 and $200 price point, the $30 proposition is not only favorable, but it comes with a temptation. And that temptation is to overconsume. If I'm used to buying a fragrance that's $100, $150, or $200, I'm used to waiting. I'm used to wearing the heck out of that fragrance before I even come back or have the thought about the latest release. And even if the thought of the latest release or the latest new thing people are talking about comes into play, if I'm not a collector, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I'll get to it later, because right now I already spent $150 on this Jimmy Choo man or something like that, right? So the old prices, and we're not talking too old, like we're talking like a year or two ago, 2024, 2023, the average clone price was around the $30 price point. It was premium to spend $40, $50 on a clone. They did exist, but not as much. Most of them came out around that price point. Now, when you're buying fragrances at 30 bucks a pop, the first thing you're going to think of is, oh my gosh, look how much money I saved. But the second temptation is always way worse than the first. And that is, wait a second. If I only spent 30 bucks, normally I only buy one fragrance for 100, 150, 200 bucks. I could actually go out and buy 4 to 6, and it'll start like this. Oh, I could get an extra 2 or 3 fragrances and still save half the money. Then you get those 3 fragrances, then you start getting stuff popping into your algorithm on YouTube. Top 10 clones for spring, top 10 clones for summer. And you very quickly run into a curiosity killed the cat scenario, where now you start justifying it. And it's because the price is so low, you can always have a great reason to get an extra bottle. And then that gets out of control. And then you start saying stuff like, after you're looking at 6 bottles of fragrance on your shelf that totaled, 150, 200 bucks, now you're saying things like, well, wait a second. If I just spend $200, $300, I don't have to shop for the rest of the year. I could basically build a mini collection right now of 10 to 15 fragrances for like 300 bucks, and I never have to go out again. I'll complete a nice set, have everything for the season, and I'll just be done with this fragrance stuff. And then you find a new excuse and a new excuse and a new excuse and a new excuse, and it gets out of control. And the price point has always kind of insinuated and came with those temptations. And so everybody falls down the dark hole. Nobody buys a clone or two and is sitting on 5 or less fragrances for the rest of their life, which most of the world is in that situation where they used to buy fragrance and would get a couple bottles or a bottle and be using that for years before they would ever step foot back in the fragrance section. And so things are changing fast. And the thing I'm going to talk about, one angle of this conversation about how clones are literally ruining your fragrance journey as well as cheapies, is that now things are changing in terms of price point. The average clone price is sitting around $50, with the premium price clones based off of brand recognition and their capital that they have to work with is now sitting upwards of $60 to $100. We're talking not Mind Games. We're talking Joe Milano and Soho and a lot of these different companies, or not Soho, Supers Budapest and things like that, are now sitting, the new premium cost for a clone is now sitting at entry level niche prices and around discounted designer level prices. And so now you're not only being pushed to pay the exact same price as many elite tier fragrances out there, but you're also tempted to favor the clone experience over a potentially more premium experience, and oftentimes a more premium experience and a more transparent experience with designers, vintage, indie, and niche. And so now you're starting to almost pay the prices for the good stuff, air quote, and you're still buying the lesser. Now, I will say this, in my entire clone buying experience, and I have a lot of it, very small percentage, maybe less than 5% of the clones that I've acquired in decant or bottle form have been equal to or outdo the OGs. And I will make videos of what those fragrances are. 90 to 95% of them have done a good job with the fragrance in and of itself and are worthy of being worn, but do not equal or beat the OGs. So the question becomes, if we're now basically paying the price of these bigger fragrances, are we dumb for continuing to fall down the clone rabbit hole? The conversation with clones used to be so compelling when you would find out that you could spend $30 and get a scent that is close to or equal to a scent that costs north of $200. So the big conversation was, you can get a $300 fragrance for $30. That's a compelling proposition. But now we are moving very quickly towards, you can pay almost the same price for the designer or the vintage or the niche fragrance and get a lesser experience. But it's still cheaper by a little bit. So what are we going to do? And then the FOMO that rolled over from before applies now to the clone game, and it's getting crazy. Content creators are really goofballs for this thing that I'm going to mention right now, and that is that we have a problem, me included. We're buying too many fragrances and we're bannering it under the content creator, this is what I do, this is who I am conversation, knowing that you don't actually have to own the bottle to be a content creator and to review fragrances. And yet we want to talk about versatility and flexibility, and yet we have 800 bottles sitting behind us in the video, 99% of which are not even used past the testing experience. Guys, 50 fragrances will last you a lifetime. A lifetime. You cannot for a single moment, not for PR, not for discounts, not for I have better resources, etc., justify that large of a collection. You have a buying problem. And to address this for my own personal life, I've curated a top 100 for my own collection to where anything else is being sold or given away. And I'm changing the way that I approach the buying experience because I'm recognizing this problem I'm not exempt to. But we have to start being real and not creating a showcase where, even though we're not saying it, visually it looks like this, where we're trying to almost inadvertently highlight the fact that buying fragrances is more fun than wearing fragrances. We are now becoming very happy about the buying experience with fragrances and the collecting and the showcasing of the fragrances way more than we are wearing the fragrances. And wearing a fragrance a lot, a single fragrance a lot. And it's reflecting into the content as well, because you guys are simply dry reviewing everything and nobody gets a real sense of your bias, and they don't get a great review from you. It's very limited. It's an initial impression at best. And even that initial impression is limited. There's a lot to this, and we'll get into it at a later video. But I want to see your thoughts. What comes to your mind as you hear me talking about this? A lot of it is not about creating a rule book for your fragrance journey. It's about sharing the information and thought processes that I have and seeing if you're going through these things as well, and how can we address this? Because it is blasphemous that clone prices are now at the floor of most designers and thousands of niche fragrances. Let me know your thoughts and comments, and I will talk back and we will get a conversation going. Provoke me to think some different things in the comment section, and I can't wait to unveil a series on this that will help your fragrance journey. I love you guys. Hope you stay blessed. And until next time, I'm signing off.